Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. It is Monday, October 24th, 2022. 2 months. 2 months from Christmas. So don't forget. I don't have a list out yet, but if you're looking for stuff to get me, you probably know what I like. Welcome to the live stream. We do this on every Monday night, as long as I'm available and time is permitting. Probably been doing this, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years now. And we tend to have a great group of people that show up for this. We talk about classic cars, and I say classic being, in my opinion, 55 to about 78, 79, maybe even 80, depending on the car. And you could even probably count a couple oddballs in there ahead of that. But anyway, we try to talk about those kind of things. And I encourage people to get involved. If you have a question, ask it. If you have something you're trying to figure out, or you're trying to troubleshoot, or whatever you may have, a lot of times there's people in this group over there in the box that have a good answer if I don't. And if you do have a good answer, you get a bell. So, just one of those things. But we have a great group of people, and we're very consistent in being here, and I want to thank all of you for being here. So everybody gets a group bell. How about that? That's how, there you go. So we're going to talk about a few things tonight. As you probably have seen, I went and looked at that 67 GTA this past weekend, and pretty cool car. I was really kind of, I don't know if I'll say surprised, but I guess I kind of was surprised at the options that car had available to it, and also kind of surprised at the options that weren't selected. When you think about these cars and what was available to the public, of course, you had the special Ford engineers and stuff that would build their own kind of, crazy cars and stuff. But when you look at these cars, you think back to the first generation, 64, 64 and a half, as they called it. Really, they were just 65s. But the basic car, it was nothing, to me, it was really a little more than a Falcon, because that's what they based it on. And then you look at what was available, and I think the first engine that came in those was like a 260 V8. Now, granted, you get the six-cylinder and then the 260, and I think that was all was available in the first cars. And then they progressed from there. Now, of course, they had other add-ons. You could have a 2-barrel, 4-barrel. You could add in air conditioning or power assist, stuff like that. And then, of course, as the model line progressed, the options got better, and generally the cars got better overall. So, anyway, we'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. Let's see who is here and get our check-ins going. So, right off the top, Rick Gain, good evening, everyone. It is a dreary, rainy day here in New Jersey. The Mustang is tucked away in the garage, safe and sound. Well, that's a good thing. I'm glad it's tucked away. Not the good thing about the rain, but I'm glad it's tucked away and safe. Rick Stevenson, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Rick. Let me give a shout out to Rick for the coffee. Just take a nice sip of that. Good stuff right there. Okay. So moving on. Huey Pilot 59. Good evening, gents, and I use that term loosely. Well, good evening to you. And we have female viewers too, so don't forget that. Terry Keithley, evening, all, and Barry. Please hit the like and thumbs up button. Thank you kindly. Yes, by all means. Troy, here we go. Good evening, all. Barry, your video on the frame rails on the Light Blue Mustang was very helpful. Thank you. Awesome. That was one of my earlier videos too. You go back in my timeline. That was earlier in my editing and all that sort of thing. So I'm glad that people are still getting good use out of those videos as well. Lynn H. Great weather here in PA. I drove the Mustang hard this weekend, idling rough, and is missing. Going in the shop Friday to find out what's up. Well, I can't. I'll give you a bell for being here. I don't drove the Mustang hard, so you might have some junk in the fuel line. Just a thought. if you get any kind of, if you've been driving it hard and slinging it around or whatever, and it could be kicking up some stuff in the fuel tank and getting into the fuel line. As we know, the system is not, it's a gravity sort of fed system that is pumped, but junk can get into that fuel line pretty quickly and cause problems. So if it's been running good otherwise, that would be my first thought, would you'd have something wrong with that. Bob Shoemaker, good evening. We finally got some rain in Oklahoma. Well, glad you're here, and I'm guessing you wanted some rain, so good. Raleigh Pacheco, good evening from Overcast, Virginia. Glad you're here, Raleigh. Whoop, there we go. Chris Greenaway, checking in from Canada. Hello. Hello, Chris. And we have Simone checking in. Good evening, Barry and chat from wet Plymouth, United Kingdom, UK. Well, I'll give you a bell for being here. I'm sure you probably don't want it to be wet at this point. I don't know. Crash Rider. Good evening, everyone. Another beautiful day in southern Indiana, but that is changing tomorrow. Be sure to hit the like button for... Uh-oh, we lost part of that conversation. Oh, the Duke of Georgia, Joe Daddy. Okay. So you had hit the go button before you were finished, I guess. Glad you're here, Crash Rider. Agent Rock. Agent Rock from Oregon is in the house. Inquiring minds want to know the future of the GTA. Well, we're going to talk about that. We will talk about that. So glad you're here, Agent Rock. And Raleigh, looks like there's going to be a mini tractor pool behind you there. Yeah. Yeah, there's I have a few of these that I bought for my grandson a year or so ago, and they're not new. They're used tractors. I'm not going to spend $500 on a little plastic tractor, and I picked these up really cheap. And I have three of them. Two of them work really well, run great, everything, and the third one is a parts tractor. So as it turns out, that little one is probably the quickest, and it would already had worn out tires or plastic from the previous kid that smoked the tires on it. So my grandson was also figuring out that he could power slide and do some fun stuff with it. So I had to swap out the tires from the donor to that one, and now the front ones are wearing out. So I started to work on it, and I decided, you know what? He's 3 years old. I'm going to let him help me. So I stopped myself from finishing it because I want him to participate. I want him to get his little hands dirty, getting in there and learning some things. So hopefully it'll be fun. We're going to work it out and get him in here. Chris, the best motors from Ford were the FEs and Cleveland's. Okay. I can't really argue with that, but that sounds good to me. Rick, 289 was available in 64.5 as the D code. Oh, okay. I did not know that. I thought the first generation only came with the 260. So, thank you, Rick. Maureen, LGB all day long. Yes, yes, yes. Roger checking in from next door, a little late, but here nonetheless. Glad you're here, Raj. Give you a bell as well. Simone, Barry, I finally refitted the engine to my Kawasaki yesterday after 5 long years. Really happy. I just need to find all the other parts now. Fingers crossed. Okay. Well, good luck with that. I hope you can find all that stuff. And I'm glad you brought that up. Not so much the Kawasaki, but the parts. I have a viewer who is looking for an engine. So I wanted to bring this up. If you have a 351 Cleveland, and not an M, not a 400, blah blah blah, 351 Cleveland, that's available. And he lives out in let's say the Midwest. So he's trying to find a 351 Cleveland to put in his car. So if anybody has a 351 Cleveland or access to one, let me know either on this chat or on email or something. So I'm trying to find a 351 Cleveland. I found one on Facebook Marketplace the other day here locally. I messaged the person and I said, "Do you know what year model the engine is?" And the guy's like, "I don't know." I have no idea. I was like, oh, okay. Do you have any of the numbers off the engine? I got no response back. So I don't even know if it's feasible or not. So we're kind of looking for one of those. So anyway, now you know. Ray Buckman, good evening, Barry and all. Got our first taste of winter last Friday or last night, and today 32 last night, 40 now. Yeah, that's getting chilly. That's getting chilly. Busted Knuckle Garage, hello from Alabama. Tommy. Hi, Tommy. Welcome. Neil Nazanitsky. First time checking in. I have a few minutes. Greetings, South Florida visitor. Glad you were here, Neil. I went to school with somebody who had a name similar to that. I thought it was going to be the same, but it's not. Nazanitsky. So, unique and interesting name. Glad you're here. Mr. Mikey checking in here. Glad to be viewing and learning. Awesome. Glad you're here. Brian, hey Barry and gang, good to see you all. If anyone's interested in seeing photos of my Fairlane project, I could send some to Barry. Let me know. Okay. Well, just send them anyway. Just send them, and we'll look at that. We'll show them. Donnie Asmaro, that's my guess. Hi Joe, just want to say thank you for all these videos over the years. Watched them over and over on restoring 68 Mustang from Sydney, Australia. I've done 2 quarter panels and trunk floor. That is awesome. I really like seeing stuff like that. You know, it's one thing to have people that have seen me and know me for years and different things, but when I see stuff like that they're in another country and they're able to take these videos and use that to help them fix up their cars or whatever. That makes me happy. I know that. Gosh, I don't even know how many. I know I have like 1,000 videos on YouTube, and probably even more. Probably closer to 2,000 between the 2 channels. But I'm still amazed at, like earlier we had a comment about the frame rails on the light blue Mustang, and that was many years ago that I did that car, and it's just really good to see that people are still using it and learning from it. Rick, going to get my ice cream cone. Okay. Well, I might have to have my big bowl of ice cream later. Dave Conville checking in. We'll get a Dave Bell. And you're here. So good evening, all. Glad you're here, Dave. Neil, I've been wondering what was the problem with the electrical gauge resistance ohm problem with Jade. You know, I haven't gotten back to it. I haven't got back to it. I got sidetracked and just haven't been able to get back to it. So I apologize for that. Sometimes things just get me going in different directions, like this. So I need to address that. Chris, I've been looking for a year or so. Best cars to pull from is a 71 to 73 Cougars. Talking about the Cleveland. Okay. Ray Buckman. There's a whole engine, 351 Cleveland for 800 locally. Well, Ray, send me an email or something. Because I don't know where locally is to you. So you have to kind of fill me in on that. Simone says, welcome, Neil. Ray says, D7T3. So that's the engine code that's on it, I assume. Neil, you say my last name correctly? That's fantastic. Well, you're welcome. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Pennsylvania, so names like that are pretty common. Whenever we have some names up there there's like a whole bunch of vowels. Probably one of the most impressive names I know of from a family that lived up in that area was Zabronchik. I mean, it was like ZBRJOVCHIK something, blah, blah, blah. But it was Zabronchik. And it was the perfect name to have on the back of a football jersey. You know, Zabronchik. That's your lineman. You want him up front. Dave said, wait a minute. Brian says, Dave, your cat scares me a little too. Um, I must have missed something on that. Oh, this is a different name. Okay, I'm gonna just go with Sanine Wilcox. Thanks for all the first gen Mustang videos. I am almost through the sheet metal phase. Your videos definitely helped. Awesome. Good, 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 good. Good, good, good. Okay, so Ray has sent me a link that I don't know if I can pass on or not. Oh, it's in Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs. Okay, so there's the got the engine code. Okay. Well, I'll definitely pass that along as best I can, and hopefully, yeah, I got it, Ray. Thank you. Let's see, Brian. Not two meant LOL. Scary cat photo. Okay. Bad Harry checking in. Hi, all. Beautiful weather here in Ontario, Canada. Racing season over. Getting back to the 67 fastback build. Awesome. That's good to hear. Busted Knuckle Garage. Barry, I watched all of your Brooklyn Pony. It inspired me to undertake my own project. 66 Mustang. It was a rust bucket, new floors, new frame rails, floor supports, dash, firewall, front torque. Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, that's pretty much the same thing as a Brooklyn Pony. Yeah, I'm trying to read what else we have here. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think I covered everything on that car because literally I replaced everything except for the door hinges. Right, I kept the door hinges. So hey, and you know, the car's still in the area. Yep. I don't know what's going on. Don't know what's going on. Guy won't contact me. I don't know if he's just waiting for me to drag it outside and let it sit out in the rain or what. I don't know. I have no idea. Let's see. Whoops. Hold on a second. Troy says, okay, this we talked about that. The DT73 may be a truck engine. Okay. Chris, buried till Tuesday, then it's going to turn cold. Okay. So you've got good weather until Tuesday. Busted Knuckle boxes and radiator support, working on repairing rear frame rails, quarter panels, and a bunch. We'll keep getting segments of that that comment. Dave Conville says, Smoke was a great cat, and he loved cameras. Okay. Now I see the cat. I didn't even notice the cat before. Sorry, Dave. I'm not a cat person. Randy, I wish I had YouTube growing. What a blessing for people like you. Thank you and everyone that posts. Yeah. And I mean, I'm still getting, I think I get like 500 subscribers a month, roughly. Which, you know, the subscribers is one thing. It's the views. The views is all that matters. All that YouTube cares about. You know, you could have 2 subscribers and have people that give you 100,000 views, and that's where it pays off. So that's the advantage of having more views. Michael Pagliarini, hello all. Nice to see the new names. Yes, it is. I agree with that. It is nice to see the new names. Ray Buckman, D7TE. Okay, hit the 3 by accident. Okay, now let me look at that. Yeah, D7TE, A2B. I don't know enough about it to be able to tell what's what. Brian, not sure I'm correct, but D7 77 D3 would be a I don't know what it would be. So a little research, we could probably figure it out, I'm sure. And I've got a little bit of an issue going on. Apparently, we have some neighbors behind us who are burning something, leaves or whatever, and it's kind of worked its way into the shop. So it's like, thanks, people. Thanks a lot. Okay, so Brian is saying maybe M engine code, so maybe it's the 351M. Is that what you're saying? I don't know. I don't know what it is. And Brian's saying the 351 400. Okay. Um, so I said I was going to talk about this GTA, and I know I covered as much as I could in the video, at least as much as I thought I could. And after I made the video and everything, I was talking to the owner, and he was telling me, yeah, he said he had it running, and he had taken it out and done a burnout in his driveway or something in the subdivision and stuff like that. I didn't even think about firing this thing up and having it running. I didn't even think about it. So I should have put that with the video, but I didn't. I did post. He sent me this. He had a video of it running, and he sent that to me, and I posted it on the Joe Daddy Facebook page. So it's kind of cool. And he also sent me the video of him doing a little burnout. I didn't post that though. But you talk about a kind of a really unique car. First of all, being a 390 car is pretty cool. Having a C6 transmission, having upgraded stuff like that, and then as I mentioned, it had the Ford 9-inch with the, as he pointed out, the drain plug in the back, which was unique to 67. Now, from a purist standpoint, I get that. I don't know that I wouldn't have known that. I didn't even I don't research some of the oddity things like that, but the having the correct rear end in it is pretty cool. As I pointed out, I wonder why the people that ordered this thing didn't order a posi unit. If you've got a 390 and a C6 and all these disc brakes and all the other options, why did you not order the posi? That would have been really cool to have that in there. Now, whether he upgrades it, I think he might. I don't know for sure. But it was like, man, that would have been a nice option. Now, I also looked up the convenience package for the lighting. And as I showed in the video, we weren't sure what the options, what they were, what the lights indicated. And I was just kind of guessing at what it could have been. I've never seen it before. And I did a little bit of research on it, and I looked up, just did a Google search on it, and it popped up with ads on eBay where people are selling variations of this, whether it's the panel that goes in the dash, whether it was the light sockets themselves with all four lights and a wiring harness and all that sort of thing. And it was described as as I put on there, the door ajar, the seatbelt not connected, low fuel, and the parking brake. And thank you, Jeff. You're awesome, man. Thank you. But the lights, like I said, and I think from my understanding, they were four different colors as well. And I think somebody had said you did that because when they were putting the thing together at the factory, you didn't know what light went where. So it may have been that they knew that the red, yellow, blue, green, or whatever was a sequence, and they could just put the lights in the sockets. And then the other thing, as he pointed out, was if it was a non-AC car, you could get it up in the dash, but the AC cars, it was in the console. So it almost implies if you wanted that package with the AC car, you almost had to get it in the console, I think. Now, I can't say for sure, but it sounds that way to me. But I was talking to somebody else about this earlier and saying, look, think about these options that were available. It was one thing to have power brakes. That was a big upgrade for almost any car of that era, to have power brakes, or power disc brake, let's say. The power steering, granted, it's a power assist, where it has a cylinder on the drag link. Not the greatest design. I think most of us know that. It was almost like it felt like almost like an afterthought. Like they didn't really want to engineer a power steering box. They just said, well, we'll just add it to the drag link and it'll work. Kind of the way I feel about it. Those things did tend to leak pretty easily, and people had problems with them. So, let's see, power steering, power brakes, and of course the air conditioning, which is really, again, kind of an odd thing when you think about it. If this is, the car was sold out in Colorado, and to order that with those options, you'd almost think they wouldn't get the air conditioning. But then again, they didn't get the positive traction rear end. So you think, well, is it you ordering it for the look and the package or whatever? Uh, but to have the AC is a real another step up in that. And then of course the overhead console. I've seen those listed on Marketplace or different places for sale. I don't know that I've ever actually seen one in person. So that was pretty cool to see that. And I know it was just a trim package, but it's still really nice thing to have. And then what was the other? Oh, of course, it didn't have the wood grain steering wheel. It had the standard steering wheel with the head impact, big head impact pad or whatever, and of course the deluxe interior and deluxe exterior trim package. So, I mean, really great, great car in the options that it has. Now, as I pointed out, it looks like that car may have had some sort of upward impact on it. And I tried to stress that in the video because a lot of people ask me, what do you look for whenever you are looking at one of these cars? You know, what's going to be a giveaway or a sign that you should or should not get into it? And I'm not saying this is a deal breaker by any means, but the action of the front end coming up, the floor support has to compensate somehow because it can't compress. You know, you're talking about flat steel channel, right? So whenever the frame rail would go up, that floor support almost has to buckle to accept that kind of impact, and that's what it did. And it also is proven in the brackets that hold the strut arms. So those were kind of mangled up. So I suggested to him that we may look at doing a complete front end. I know it's got issues with the aprons being rusted all the way through. You could see through the aprons, and the driver's side frame rail is pretty bad. In my mind, I already know that the floor support or the floor supports are bad. The torque box, of course, only one on that car. It's definitely bad. So it's going to kind of turn into a bit of a can of worms there. So what I've suggested to him after we talked it over a few times was you may want to build the whole thing a whole new front end on a jig of some sort. You could make one out of wood. Ideally, it's you just want to keep the gap left to right the same and then parallel to each other. Ideally, by doing that, now whenever you go up into the car, you at least know that you're going to have a matching plane with the frame rails. That's why I look at it. I would put some cross bracing in to help keep everything, rigid. But the problem with some of that is when you start looking at what those attach to. So the floor supports are bad, and of course the firewall is going to have issues. We already know it's going to have issues. So I've seen other people do that where they just build the whole front snout and slide it into the floor supports. The tricky part is going to be when you start replacing items that are bad, you need to get them back in the same spot, right? So I would look at the idea of, let's say, took the whole front end out of it. Of course, take what measurements you can to try to zero out what you can. But if you replace, once you get the torque boxes out, the floor support is exposed, you can get it out. Really, it might be a good opportunity to put the floor supports back in, even if you tied them to each other, to have them on parallel, and you're able to index them so that they're square to where they need to be. And that way when the frame rails would come in, it would slip into those floor supports. Again, there's ideas of measuring and calculating out what needs to happen and different things like that. So as you probably saw when I did the 56 Chevy, that was the first time I've used lasers to actually square things off and make things as straight as possible. And that would be a good idea in this case, is to use the lasers to level out the vehicle and figure out where you're at on these different planes. As we know, the frame rails are not parallel to the pinch welds on the bottom of the rocker. I pointed that out with the Brooklyn Pony when I was putting the rails in. I used my own technique and determine where the pitch needed to be on those rails, and it worked out fine. So, I mean, there's lots of things that you can do in these cases. Measurement is key to everything. So I'm hoping we can continue on with this car. I'm trying to get. In fact, if somebody has any pictures of a wooden jig where they've built the front frame rails, because I've seen it somewhere. I'm pretty confident I've seen somebody do this. But if you have any pictures like that, let me know or send them to me or whatever, and we'll see if they can't get that information to Charlie so he can get an idea of what he can do. Let's see here. Bad Harry says, I have one of those 4 lights with my 67 not putting back in because I am installing AC. So yours only came with 1 light? That's interesting. Now, what was the light? Do you know if it was what function it was? Because, if you have the low fuel, that's why I was pointing out you have the different plug that plugs onto the tank, because it has to feed that line for the low fuel indicator. So, but if you go on eBay and stuff, it's ridiculous what people are getting, or at least what they're asking for those accessories, because nobody makes them apparently. I don't know. I haven't looked into it to see if anybody sells them aftermarket or not, but original stuff is going for a really high price. Rick, a lot of different cars that had similar power assisted steering. 60s model Corvettes came to mind. Yeah, I'm sure they did. I know that it was probably something I didn't really see it much, or didn't pay attention to. Let's say at the junkyard. I'm sure we had them there though, but it was the steering box to me is a much better way to go, and of course now everybody's doing the electric steering conversion, right? Chris Berry, when you ordered a Ford Motor Company, you have a Ford financing, like my dad said, they tell you when you can stop. Okay, for options. Harvey, Barry, I enjoyed your new video on the GTA. Yes, thank you, Harvey. Randy, are you doing that work for him? Cool videos coming, I hope. I am not. He is planning to do it himself. He did ask that if it were possible that I could maybe come up there for a day or something and help him at some point in the future, and that is a possibility. He lives about an hour and a half away from me, so the difficulty with that is traffic, because going through Atlanta is just horrible, just horrible. Dave, when we move on to the next subject, any thoughts on rejuvenating? Oh, let's say, here we go. When we move on to the next subject, any thoughts on rejuvenating old, heavily oxidized paint? Well, we can definitely talk about that. I'm not sure that I am going to have a very good answer for it, because I've not really done much of that. I have seen some other videos where people have used different materials and buffing compounds and stuff like that to bring back the look of the original paint, but I don't have a good answer on that. So maybe we can have somebody else involved who may have. So we'll find out. King Duckford, I consider my 80s Panther platform cars modern because of EFI. Are they considered classics yet? Am I behind the times? 80s Panther platform cars. Well, are they considered classics? I think for certain, yeah. I mean, here's the way I look at it. Classic is going to be in some ways relative to your age bracket. In some ways, I know for tag purposes, at least here in Georgia, I think they consider a classic car 25 years or older. They don't even care if you have a title for a car. It's 25 years old. So that's where their number becomes classic. Well, if you drop back 25 years, what's that, 1997? So let's go back a little bit further. You look at, like, I was a fan of the Chevy trucks that come out in, Chevy and GMC that come out in 89. I was a fan of those. I still am. I still like those trucks a lot. Those are now, I guess, considered classic. They'd have to be, because of they're older. Um, but the but I don't know what I'm not familiar when you say Panther platform. I guess I'm at a loss because I don't know what that implies, honestly. But yeah, the time period kind of dictates what you would consider classic in the way I look at it. But for me, classics are 55 to about 79. Good question though. I mean that's a good question. Brian, people need to remember these 60s and 70s cars were before the 55-mile-an-hour mandate, so they are nice at 70 on the freeway. So unless you plan on road racing it, save your money. Yeah, yeah, that's true. They were not like the cars that would you would look at and go, oh, it'll do 100 miles an hour or something. Would be like looking at a big Chrysler, a big Imperial, where it would just float down the highway. You know, these other cars that weren't really. I mean, they could go that fast, but I don't think that was the goal. You're right. Neil, got to go. Thanks for the conversation. Farewell for now. Cannot wait for more videos of the work you do. Thank you, Neil. Glad you were here. Bad Harry. I also had the overhead console, but it will not work on my fastback. Well, feel free to mail it to me. Feel free to send it my way. Okay, so we're gonna look at something here. Dave has sent me a few pics. So let me see if I can get those pulled up real quick. So Dave has, I'm guessing, a late 70s, mid 80s, can't really tell, Chevy truck that had a big tree on the side of it. So I think I mean, that's a solid truck by the looks of it. Usually stuff like that's rusted out pretty bad. And so let's see here. Here's the other picture. He's got some of the finish back. So I guess that's, I don't know what we're looking at exactly. I don't know if it's the bottom of the door and a rocker panel or where we're at. But I get what you're saying. You're talking about the oxidation. Um, I know there's products out there, but I can't tell you that it's used this or that or the other. I don't know for sure. It may just be kind of hit and miss on some of it. Okay, so, oh, wait a minute. Wait. Go back up a second. King, 40 years for classics in North Dakota. No more registration fees. Oh, well, that would be awesome. We don't have that here. They keep you registered and everything. Like my Model A, I still got to pay fees on that car. 1931. Mr. Mikey, what Atlanta mean the Georgia 400? Yeah, I mean, I went up. It was I had to go up 575. Um, Depending on where you're going, obviously you can get on 400. But yeah, I went up 575 and north, uh, northwest side of Atlanta. So, Dave, in the meantime, using Malco Paint Rejuvenator on a phone pad and a DA. Okay, it looks like it's doing something. So, I guess keep trying that. We'll see what else comes up. King, but I was asking in terms of relative culture and arbitrary definitions. And you're saying the Panther platform or the Crown Vic Grand Marquis Town Car. Okay, I guess those do fall into a certain classic category when you think about it, because those were rear wheel drive. Usually, depending on the year model, had some of them had regular bumpers, like steel bumpers, or aluminum bumpers, or whatever. Um, so if you break it down by those kind of things, um, that's probably in a more classic realm of these cars. Now, granted, a lot of those had all kinds of options and stuff like that, which was cool. But I guess in that kind of sense, it falls into the uh, classic kind of cars, because most everything today is what front wheel drive and little, whatever. Brad. Okay, last week the Steelers shirt, now a Shelby shirt. You're all hitting you're hitting all my buttons. Enjoy your content. Thanks for doing them. Okay. Thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So I'm glad you're a Steelers fan. Unfortunately, they didn't show up very well on Monday night. But they got some issues to deal with. Randy says, now I feel old. Oh, we're talking about classic cars going back to 97, 25 years ago. It was 25 years ago, right? Yeah. Mac, Arkansas was 20 years old. Now it's 45 years old for antique tags. So it was 20, but now it goes to 45. That's interesting. Okay. Rick Stevenson, Panther platform would be Crown Vic Grand Marquis. Yeah. And those cars are becoming, I guess, becoming somewhat popular. There's certain people that they love those cars, and there's some people that love to take parts from those cars and put them in different cars. Just the way it is. And I've seen, there's somebody was on our street the other day. I don't know what year this thing was, but it was a big Crown Vic in excellent condition. And people are actually buying them up and putting them back on the road and driving these things. So they were pretty decent cars. Chris says orbital foam for minor orbitals with wool work great for cutting use. Use a lot of lotion not to burn the paint. Okay. Talking about the oxidation. And Mac says, what's up, everyone? Glad you're here, Mac. I don't know if I got to give you a bell or not, but you get one anyway. Dave Britton. Hi, all. Just want to say that Mustang with Charlie's is one heck of a really nice project. It is. It is. Glad you're here. It's going to take some work. I mean, it's going to take some work. Measuring is going to be the key on that car to get things back into square. I think everything from the firewall back is good as far as squareness goes. It's that front section that I'm worried about. So, Dave says that truck is an 89, pretty solid. And Brian says, removing paint or refreshing? He's trying to refresh that paint, by the sounds of it. Which I'm really, that truck is really solid for being a classic. Let's see, where are we at? Mac. Charlie Stang is a very nice project. Yes. Brian says seams are moving. No, I think he's just trying to clean it up. Just bring some life back into it. So it has some potential. I don't think he's looking at doing a whole, repaint everything and make it all shiny again. Just make it look good. Dawn's Manufacturing. Hello, checking in from sunny Hawaii. What? Hawaii? Okay, Dawn. Rub it in. Glad you're here. Surprised you're checking in from Hawaii, but I'm glad you're here, Dawn. Hope you're enjoying yourselves. I'm assuming you're having some sort of vacation. So, cool. Randy, I got a 79 Mustang pace car. All your work still applies to any car. Yeah, you're right. I would agree with that. It's all about measuring and fitting and test fitting and bending and shaping and welding and all those things. So you're right. I agree with you. Chris Davis sent an email to Barry what you can do with a orbital and polish. My mentor taught me. Okay. So we've got a couple of pictures here. So let me pull those up real quick. So this first shot, I'm guessing that's before you started. I can't really. I'm assuming. I can't tell how big the picture's not very big to me. And then the second shot, looks pretty shiny. So Let's see. And he used a compound on it. Okay. It looks good. It looks good. Performance. HVACR. Is your nephew the guy with the purple 67 Mustang? No. Purple 67 Mustang? I'm not familiar with that one. No, I don't have any other relatives that are into doing this stuff. So, nope. Rick, in New Jersey, classic registration is free. After the first time you pay, it automatically renews at no charge every 3 years. Well, that would be nice. We always have to go to the tag office. And, of course, I have a vanity tag on the Model A, and I have to pay like $45 a year because of that vanity tag. If you just have a regular tag, it's like $20. But anything with a vanity tag, or if you are one of those kind of people that contributes to the, I don't know, whatever you could label, Fish and Game Commission or animal stuff or all these things that are available to you, then they charge you extra for those tags too. And I think it goes to that charity or whatever. So, Brad, lately more happy to be a Shelby fan. Wait, what? Oh, lately more happy to be a Shelby fan over the Steelers, but oh well. Yeah. It's they're gonna get there. They just have to figure out what to do with the players they have right now. And I know that the quarterback is learning, so he'll get there. And Max says Arkansas is the same $7 one time. Well, that would be fantastic. That's a good price. But I don't know anything else about, like here in Georgia, supposedly the money we pay for all this stuff goes towards road fees to fix the roads and all that sort of thing. I don't know how that works in Arkansas or different states. So the trade-off may be you have really bad roads, but you have cheap registration. I don't know. Dave Conwell says, thanks, Chris. Brian, I asked because it looked like primer. Okay, yeah. I mean, it's definitely faded out pretty bad. I agree with that. That almost does look like a red primer, doesn't it? Okay, Chris, Barry, if you open the email of what I started with, it's fairly similar. Okay. Yep, got that. Brian, I see a lot of new names here. I hope you all stick around and support Barry's channel. Yes, definitely. Mr. Mikey, with my older Ford truck paint, I used a 2000 grit wet, dry sandpaper and wet. So, and Brian, it's very dead red paint. I'm just trying to make it look less pink. You'll get there, Dave. Chris says, Dave, take your time. Do one panel. It may take 2 or 3 passes. Work on a cool panel. Then warm. Do a different section. The higher the cutting, the quicker it gets the oxidation, but lightens your paint. That is true, too. You run the risk of actually removing paint. So, Mitch, Barry, I have a 6-cylinder Mustang. Just recently started the idle rough and trouble staying at idle without high RPMs. I checked the inline filter and it's fine, and I'm getting spark and fuel. Okay, so it recently started idle rough. And trouble staying at idle without high RPMs. Okay, so you need to look at, I would suggest looking at some vacuum lines. Okay, make sure you got all your vacuum lines in place. If there's something that's leaking and getting extra air in there, these old cars can't compensate. So you end up with you're supposed to have X amount of fuel, X amount of air, but if you have more air coming in, then that changed the scale. So it's very likely you could have a problem with that. Otherwise, if it runs good at high RPMs, it sounds like the spark plugs are all working correctly. However, without knowing it, seeing it, and all these different things, there are problems you can have with plug wires as well. I don't know what the condition of any of those are, but it's. I would probably lean towards trying to see if it's getting too much air in the system. So, good question. Any other input would be great. King in North Dakota, you can get a vanity ham radio call sign for regular registration price. Okay. Yeah, if we get any kind of vanity tag here, it's $45. They don't care what it is. Fish and Game Commission, SPCA, any whatever it is. There's all kinds of. They have probably 100 variations that you could contribute to. Shane, what's behind you? Restoring pedal cars now. No, I've got a couple little tractors I'm working on for my grandson. Got to replace some wheels. He's wearing those things out. But I'm going to get him involved. I was going to do it, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to get some tools in his hands. 3 years old, he can help out. So I'm going to get him back over here and have him participate. But those are little electric tractors. Ray, could be worse. I'm a Broncos fan, 2-5 so far this year. Yeah, what's up with that? You got a good quarterback, and now he's getting hurt all the time or something. I don't know what's going on with that. Mitch, I'm wondering, could this just be bad gas quality, or is it just significant enough to cause that large of an issue? I mean, there's a chance you got bad gas. You got some water in there. You could also run some dry gas. I know it's not as popular here in the South, but up north, you could buy a bottle of dry gas, which I think is basically like alcohol, and you would dump it in there, and it would help get the water out of the system. So it's a possibility. Chris, Dave, that black car was blue when I started, but then what I recommend is a compound polish, then seal it with 2 coats of wax. So there you go. I think the wax is going to be the big thing. Mac, and make sure to hit that, smash that like button. Yes, please do. Roger, interesting story about vanity tags. I have the same vanity tag number on the Z28 that was on it 25 years earlier with the previous owner. So that is an interesting situation because the car he's talking about, and I don't have any like in front of me that I can pull up. The tags up until, gosh, I don't know what year, into the 2000s, I'm sure. In Georgia, they were stamped. So it was a number stamp tag, right? So it had raised letters on it. And later on, they decided that they're not going to do that anymore, and now it's a printed tag, which I hate. I want that raised letter. It has that nostalgic feel and look to it, but they don't do that anymore. So what he's saying is he has the tag that was on it and registered on that car was a stamped steel tag. And then it went out of issue because the people they didn't renew it. So it went out of date. That same vanity tag number became available again because those other people didn't renew it. So he renewed it, and he's got the printed plate, but he still has the original plate that was the stamp plate. So it is pretty cool. Rare to find that. And have both of them, honestly. Brian, I have a daughter. Something wrong with Pink Dave. Just kidding. Randy, can you clear coat over the truck? I really don't know. On Dave's truck, probably not a good idea. That oxidized stuff, it's going to remain there. You'll basically trap it. And if you've done any cutting and buffing and polishing, you'd have to get all that stuff back off before you could even consider adding clear coat to it. Otherwise, it would just be a mess. So, Ray Buckman, also check the carb as today's fuels mess with older carburetors. That is true too. Chris, Dave, I use McGuire's compound ultimate polish. Then whatever you'd prefer for wax. It took a week for us to revive the paint. So, good information. Mitch, I did realize a whistle in the carb now, and the intake cover PCV gasket is ripped. Maybe I'll look there first. Yeah, that's probably a good idea, because I mean it you don't want air getting in there. Brian points out rough idle. Check your PCV can be a direct vacuum leak, as Barry said. Yep. Dave says thanks, Chris. Also using McGuire's 100 compound. Rick, will you make a video of your grandson working with you on the tractor? I don't know. I'd have to get permission from his parents. But we'll see. I might do something, put that on the other channel. I might. We'll see. Not a bad idea. Terry, here in Illinois, it costs 1 gallon of what? It costs 1 gallon of blood, one leg, and sign of all your possessions over. That's because we have the wrong people in charge. Just saying. Just saying. Okay. Chris, hey man, it's worth keeping these old rides with paint. We're not Barry. It's hard to explain bodywork through video. Yeah, it is. Greg's checking in from Australia. Says hi, Barry. Glad you're here, Greg. Give you a bell. Car guy Troy, late to the party. What did I miss? Well, we talked about the 67 GTA a little bit, and some ideas as what it needs to be to get it fixed. So, and a bunch of other stuff. You have to rewatch it. Rick, prisoners making license plates do not want to have to work that hard, so they cheap out on the quality. Well, I don't know. I don't know that it's that so much as it's more cost effective for them to make a printed tag. Make a printed tag, I think is really what it comes down to. Bob Shoemaker, if the grandson takes a liking to the work, he probably might be taking things apart, and then somebody will have to put it back together. I sure hope so. I sure hope so. I would be excited to have him even just turning wrenches. Take something apart. Go ahead. Let me show you how. Let me show you how. Brian, they're letting everyone in prisons know when left to stamp plates. That's probably more accurate than you realize. Terry Rushing, I have a '68 Torino 428 Cobra Jet, not original, that I hope to get back on the road someday. I bought the CJ when they were a dime a dozen. That is awesome, and I'm glad you held on to it. I really am. That is awesome. 68 Torino with a 428. Man, you drive everywhere. How does it go? What kind of mileage does it get or something? It gets me from one gas station to the next kind of thing. Max says, right, Brian, foolishness. Yes. Car Guy Troy, that GTA video was great. Owner seems pretty pumped about it. I agree. I mean, I'm excited for him. I've got my own projects and stuff to do, and I've got more things coming. Speaking of which, I'll bring that back up again. We are working on the arrangement, for the Bronco that's coming. So I'm going to be painting a, 66 to 76 Bronco body. That's a brand new body. And so it'll be coming here, I think, in 3 weeks. It'll be here. Like almost dead on 3 weeks. It should be right here. So going to get that in here. The owner has talked to me about what color he wants it. So we're going to work on getting a sample for that. I'm not going to mention the color just yet, but gonna get that started as a paint project. And I was talking to Roger about this last night. One of the difficulties I'm going to have is getting it into the paint booth, because this has no drivetrain, no engine, nothing in it, just a frame and a chassis or axles and body. But those, if you don't know, those old Broncos are really heavy. I mean, really heavy vehicles. So the challenge of getting it to the back of the shop and into the paint booth, it's going to take some work. And I may end up taking putting some anchors in the floor and using an electric winch or something to try to pull it into the paint booth. So I got to get that figured out too. Just another little thing to do on the list of everything else I'm doing. Chris, Dave, my mentor did a 69RR from pink to red. So there you go. Terry Keithley, all of our so-called leaders are convicts on just about everywhere. Yeah, you're right. Just about every one of them. Rick, show your grandson how to disassemble the Brooklyn Pony. Yeah, that would be a good car to work on because I'm not working on it anymore. And apparently the owner doesn't want it. But he's not coming to get it. He's not doing his due diligence and paying his bills and making it happen. So, yeah, might as well. Randy, here in Indiana, my plate is just a sticker for my plate that's about 5 years old. Okay. That's different. Troy, my Georgia plate has a decal over aluminum. It's fading and cracking. We only have one plate. Yeah. Yeah. So the new style one is fading? That's not cool. Because I actually have one that says Joe Daddy on it on the GMC truck. It's a Joe Daddy plate. And I wish it was a stamped Joe Daddy plate, not a printed one. Terry Rushing, pass everything but a gas station. That's basically what I was trying to say. Chris, you can drive past everyone on the highway, but not past the Texaco pump, as my old man says. Yep, same thing. Yep. Simone is checking in. Says hi to Greg. Michael Pagliarini, what does GTA stand for? That is a very good question. I don't really know. We know that they use a lot of these names like the Plymouth GTX. We have the GT and the SS and RS. We know that Camaro was Super Sport and Rally Sport. And we had these other codes, kind of like the Chevy Z71. Well, all that meant was that was the code. A lot of people don't know that. It wasn't like a special name they made up for that truck. That was the code. That was the order code, Z71, off-road suspension. So I don't really know what exactly GTA stands for. I mean, normally GT you think Grand Touring or Gran Turismo, something along those lines. But it could just be a random type of thing. So we have a couple here. Chris Greenaway says Grand Touring Automatic. Brian says Grand Touring Automatic. Terry Keithley says GT Automatic. And then GT cars were GT Automatic. Okay. Grand Touring Automatic. Okay, see, I did not know that. And maybe it was just that simple. Sometimes you see something and you overthink it. Like, I would not have thought about the automatic. I would have thought like Grand Touring America or something like that. So now we have an answer from Michael asking a question. And I'll have to take your word for it and say that's right. So what was the stick shift cars? Would that be a GTS? I don't know. Shane, I've been trying to find a 64 Pennsylvania or Virginia plate for the front of Eileen. Not much luck so far. Have you looked on eBay? Check eBay. There's also, oh gosh, there's a group. There's several people on Facebook who have a group on that. Oh man, I could probably hook you up with a guy because I ended up buying like 15 of my license plates from one guy. That's all he does on the side is flip plates. But she's looking for 64. Let me write that down because I've got another guy local who does license plates, and he's the one that got me the 68 plate that's on Jade, the Georgia 68 plate. So you need a 64 PA or VA plate. And I'll put you down. Because I'm trying to. I know I have his. I probably have his card in the house somewhere. Somewhere. Anyway, so they're out there. Gary A. Hey, I just want to say thanks for the advice on my '69 Mustang last week. Okay, awesome. Glad we could help. Doyle, late but here. The body is ready for epoxy primer. I took your advice and skimmed the quarter panel and blended it out from 80 to 180 320 grit. Okay, good. Good. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Give you another bell. Brian, hey Barry, before we get too popular and there are too many of us, let us consider getting together in one place. Just a thought, you're the man. Well, I mean, I don't know that I'll ever get to that crazy popularity thing, but I mean, I'm going to keep trying to do at least this as much as I can as time goes forward. Greg Blinko says hi to Simone. Brian says GTA. Okay. Rick, a 3-year-old tearing apart the convertible on YouTube will guarantee you a lot of views. Yeah, it would. Okay, so we'll go through the GT comments. Here we go. Randy, 67 Camaro was just the code Z28. That's probably, yeah, like Z71. It was same kind of deal. So I'm skipping over all the GT automatic question or comments. So, Gary, a quick follow-up question. Where would you guys start to figure out how much metal to replace? Would you start by cutting out the shock towers or order the full Dynacorn apron assembly? That's a good question. I tend to be more interested at this point in that whole assembly. Now, I've not tried one of those, so I can't verify that it's built exactly like maybe I would build it. But I'm going to assume, that is, that they have it indexed properly on the rail. That's the biggest thing, is making sure it's in the right position. I like the idea of doing that so that you're not backtracking and having to get it where it needs to be, hopefully. So I'm kind of into those right now. I think that's a good idea. But yeah, you're going to have to remove stuff in the process anyway. So it's up to you if you want to do the shock tower or if you want to do the whole frame rail assembly. So, but I do like the full assembly. Simone Sarberry, I'm still here listening, just sorting out emails. Okay, that's cool. Glad you're here. Ray, touring, not Turismo. Okay, thank you, Ray. And Chris says the GTs were just a stick. Stick was GT. Okay. Several comments on that. Awesome. See, and I don't consider myself like, I'm learning more and more about the Mustangs. I know about cutting them into pieces and putting them back together, and I don't necessarily research. Like I've told you all before, I'm a car guy. I'm not a Mustang guy or a Camaro guy or a Mopar guy or an AMC guy or whatever. I'm a car guy. So some people are more focused on Mustangs or Camaros or whatever. I tend to have this more broad knowledge of the cars in general. More as more time goes on, and I learn about some of these things with these Mustangs and whatnot, then it's great to have that knowledge, and I'll keep that knowledge, but I don't research it. So now I'm getting some more information, which I thank all of you for contributing. That makes all this that much better when we have those kind of comments and stuff like that. So I can tell you a lot about Chevys or Fords or Studebakers, maybe some about Corvairs, maybe about some Renault cars, or Renaults as we would say. You've got the R8, R10, R12, R15, R5, all those, the Renault Dauphine. I could probably tell you about a bunch about that stuff. I could tell you some about the Corvairs with the different configurations and the Monza and the Spider and different things like that. I can tell you some about the 67, Plymouth Belvedere or the Coronet 440, 500, all these different things. There's a whole lot of stuff spinning around in this head. But as I learn more about this, then I realize that makes sense. 67 GT would be the stick. A would be automatic. It makes sense. So the more you know, the more you can help out with other people when they have a question. Let's see. Dalmarine. Tips on keeping insurance on the classic car all year or turn off for winter when stored in garage. I use Haggerty. I use Haggerty as well. I've lately heard some negative things about Haggerty, like not wanting to pay up on the insurance and stuff like that. So I have not researched any other insurance companies and whether one is better than the other. Now, ideally, let's just say, as an example, I have like $25,000 on the Model A. I keep that insurance on year round. Now, if it's stored in a garage and something happens, then they should, like the house burned down or something, they should cover that rather than my homeowner's insurance, you would think. I'd be worried about running the risk of only having the insurance on for 6 months out of a year or something like that, and what happens in the meantime. So, but I can't say if there's another company that's better or not. I just know that that's what I have is Haggerty, but I've also heard some negative stuff recently about them not wanting to pay out some claims. So, I'm not sure if that helps much, but that's my opinion. Dave Britton, my 68 GT Fastback was an auto, so it does not always follow those rules. Well, that's breaking the rules. I don't know if I like that. I want to have rules. I want to have numbers. Now you're throwing me. But that's a 68. So maybe it was only 67. And that's where you get these unique things. Certain years had this option or that option or blah, 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 blah. And I don't remember. I have a hard time putting all those into a mental catalog. Because generally I don't write much down. I just remember things. But thank you for that. Brian, stick shift were also GTA, Grand Touring, awesome. Yeah. Michael Pagliarini, okay, like that, like the GTH? I don't know, you lost me there. I'm not sure what you're trying to say. Cargo choice, sticks were GT, automatics were labeled GTA. Believe that started in 67, 65, and 6 were just GT, whether auto or manual. See, that's again talking about this snaking around on what's what. Chris, Dave, 68, they didn't follow the rules then, but 65, 670 had a Mustang GT. It was a stick. So there you go. All kinds of little things. Dave Britton, hey Barry, did you happen to know that in Canada there's a license plate from Northwest Territories that is in shape of a bear? Huh. You don't say. You don't say. Wait a minute. You don't say. Hold on just a second. Does it look like that? Can you see it? Got one. A friend of mine gave me that last year. He had two of them, and he gave me one. That's from 1983, Northwest Territories, Canada. Gotcha. You weren't expecting that, were you, Dave? Shane, plates in DC are shaped like a potato. I believe that. Mr. Potato Head. Performance. Does your shop rebuild carbs? I have a 68 Mustang with dirt daubers all in it. I don't do much with carburetors. Never have. I mean, I've rebuilt carburetors, but it's not something I do as a standard. Normally, I think if somebody rebuilds carbs, they should have the equipment to test flow and all that sort of thing. I don't have any of that, so I wouldn't even be in my wheelhouse. But thank you for asking. Randy in Indiana just sold her whole car at more than 20 years old. Rust is just bad. Rust is bad here. Yes, I've been up there. I've seen pictures. I went to was it? It wasn't Indiana. It was Illinois. And I was looking at some of the vehicles up there, and it's like the whole bottom of the thing is gone. Like a 2003 Chevy truck, and there's no rocker panels, no cab corners. The bottom of the bed is gone. I'm like, I'm used to seeing that. Like Pennsylvania, that was a big thing too. Everything would just rot off at the bottom, so pretty bad. But yeah, order a new car. Gary A. Thanks, Barry. That's what I was thinking too. Full assembly, not worried about placing the shock towers myself. Yep, makes sense. Brian, my opinion is save all the virgin metal you can. Learn what is weldable and what is not. Save what you can, in my opinion. Yeah, and I try to do that as much as I can, and I try to show that with people. But there are times where there is a trade off in some instances. I like the tower deal with keeping it all. It's pre-built, so it should take some of the guesswork out. Simone, not a motorcycle guy, Barry. No, I like motorcycles. I've had a lot of motorcycles. I say a lot. Overall, I probably owned 20 or more bikes over the years, maybe 25. So yeah, I like motorcycles. What I don't like is the crazy people around me when I'm trying to ride a motorcycle. That's what I don't like. However, and I know this, I won't say this is maybe taboo or not, but I am considering buying one of those little, with Ice Bear, I think, the Chinese knockoff of the Honda like 70, the old Honda 70 that they would make, or the Honda 50, the little monkey, whatever. I'm thinking about buying one of those, but you can get those now with a 125 engine on them, and it looks just like the old Honda 70s. And I've really thought about buying one just to have it and just put a tag on it, and if I want to get run to the store or something, I can go up to the store and buy something and come back real quick. Just a thought, but kind of cool. Dave Brent sent a pic of this place Barry. My dad has one in his collection. Yeah. Yep. And mine actually has the 1983 on it. So I'll download this one real quick because I don't know what year. And mine says Northwest Territories. Yours says Explore Canada's Arctic on top. So that's kind of interesting. I'll show you that. I'll show you his plate as well. Yeah, I was really surprised. I did some work for a friend of mine, and he said, "Hey, do you have one of these plates?" And I was like, "Nope." And so next time he came over, he handed it to me. He said, "Here you go." So that says March of '89. So that may be, well, at least that's the last date on the tag. Let me, I don't know if I can see what mine says on it or not. Mine says 84. Mine has a sticker date of 84 on it. So I don't know if they still make those or not. But I got one. Okay, let's go back up here. Bob Shoemaker, growing up time in the salvage yard lends a hand in that broad knowledge of cars. Oh yeah, let me tell you, being exposed to thousands upon thousands of different cars, and I guess in some sense keeping a mental notebook of what went where and all these different things. If somebody came up and said, "Hey, I need a fender from a '66 Valiant or whatever," you'd have to go, "Oh, well, let's see, '66 Valiant, blah blah blah. That one fits this, that, and there's, stuff like that you would just have to kind of just know." But also getting these cars running, or just a whole variety of things. It just gives me all that back knowledge. So yeah, it was beneficial to learn all of that as a kid, really. So yep. Gary, Brian B, that was my original thought. I'm just worried about getting things in the right position. Yeah. Talking about the apron and the tower. Simone, I did use Haggerty's but changed over to Lancaster for both my cars. Okay. I don't know if that's available here in the States or not. Terry Rushing, I think they stopped the GTA nonsense after 67. Ford, anyway. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I guess I just went to the GT and then um, I don't know from there. But you're probably right. Lynn, I have Haggerty. They give you a monthly car magazine with the coverage. That's cool. I don't think I've ever received a magazine from Haggerty, and I've had insurance from them for since 2007. I don't think I've ever seen a magazine. Maybe a some sort of letter type thing, but I don't know if I've ever seen a magazine. So that's interesting. Um, so Brian saying the A designation were Mustang and Fairlane only. Okay, that makes sense. Brian, is that aimed at me? I'm not sure. Not sure. Dave, those plates are very collectible. Yes, I was surprised that you knew it and even had one. See? You just never know. You just never know. Um, Car Guy Troy, I know a plethora of useless information about on old cars. Seems to pick that up and it sticks there. And old music. Well, that's all good to me. It's all good to me. I like it all. And Larry, heck yeah, another Corvair fan. I like Corvairs. I really do. We had, I'll just say junkyard story. We'll just say, I was trying to think of something I could bring up as a junkyard story, and that's pretty cool. My dad had, he had a fixation on Studebakers. I already told you that. But he also had a thing for Corvairs. And honestly, he probably had one of the more rare Corvair collections, had they been kept up and saved, than probably most people ever would have seen as far as the combinations, right? So whatever year was the first year for the Corvair, I don't know if it was 62 or something like that, 61, 62. And of course they were they looked kind of the same front looking at them either direction. And then I think it was 65, they went to more like, it looked like a little Impala or little Chevelle, in my opinion. But he had, we probably had 35 or 40 of these things, and they ranged from the hardtop to the sedan to the van. We had the van configurations. I think there might have been one pickup truck there that had the drop gate on the side and then a tailgate in the back, and then there were convertibles. There were two convertibles that were the Spider version. They had the turbos on them. A lot of people don't know that they came with turbos or superchargers, whatever. I think it was superchargers. And so, the configurations varied with, I think they had one with a single carb, but you could get dual carbs on it. Variations of those. And that's what those little numbers meant on the back of the, what would be the engine compartment. We'll say deck lid, but it had a 140 or a 180, and those were, I don't know if it was horsepower rating. I think it probably was, but that's what those numbers meant. But when they had, there was one up there it was like lime green. It was like a 64, and this thing was like lime green convertible. It had the Spider logo on the side, and it had in the engine bay, like there was chrome. Like, I don't know what you would have ordered to get one of these, but it was all chromed out underneath the on the engine. And then the other one, which had, I can't, my mind is not whether it's supercharger or turbocharger. I want to say supercharger. The other one was like a 66 or 67 model. and it was also convertible. So they were very unique cars. It's a shame that they were beat down so bad, but he had a whole variety of those things, and it was really cool. And the rarest one, in my opinion, was the Lakewood. A lot of people don't know that they had a station wagon. You could get a Corvair station wagon. It was called the Lakewood, and he had one of those. I always remember walking by the thing as a kid, thinking this is just a really unique looking car. So if you ever see one of those, you've seen a unicorn. Let's see, Dave. With Charlie's car, it would be nice to. It would be a crime to replace the aprons and lose that VIN on such a rare car. Well, yes and no. I can't say he's going to lose the VINs. I can't say he's going to lose the VINs. Just saying. Lynn, the Honda CT7 you're talking about. Yes. But now they make the Ice Bear version that has the, you get it with a 125 engine on it. So that thing must be pretty quick to run around on. Max says, I agree, keep the VIN intact. Yes. Well, and I'll say this too, because we brought it up with the VINs. There's companies out there that sell they actually sell the dies. They do. You can buy them. You can actually buy everything with the star and everything. You can restamp those things. I'm just telling you. I don't have a set, but they do sell them. Gary, I would say the same on a rare car. Mine is a pretty plain coupe. Yeah. Max says, what was it, 1 of 4 produced? It was 1 of 4 with the combinations that it has, meaning the deluxe trim, the console, the S-Code 390, the C6, all these things that break it down because, if you ordered a coupe, there were like 200,000 coupes, and then so many of those were red, and so many of those had a console, or so many of those had this option or that option. And when it came down to it, of these cars that were built that matched that design, only 4 of them had an AM radio. So that kind of defines it as 1 of 4. Simone says Honda step through, we call them. No, not these. Not that one. This Honda 70 had an upper bar, let's say. So it didn't have like the big gas tank in the front, but it had the upper section. So I'd have to get a picture up. But now, like I said, now they're selling them as the Ice Bear company, whatever, over in another country, are selling these things, and let me see if I can pull one of these up real quick. Okay. So as an example, that Honda 70. So you can get these now. I mean, you can get them from China they sell them as Ice Bear, but you can get them with a 125 engine on it, which is pretty cool. They also have the smaller version that looks like the Honda 50, but you can get it also with the bigger engine on it as well. Okay, Ray Buckman says, good night, Barry, and all. Got to run. Y'all have a great week. Thank you, Ray. Glad you were here. Dave Britton, those plates are not easy to install as the regular ones, as they are a real bear to put on. Yeah. Okay. So Gary's chuckling. Yeah, I'm getting ready to close down here. It's time for me to get in the house. So, Doyle, do you still have the cross-reference books from the year for exchangeable parts? I do not, unfortunately. And I probably will not have access to that. Complicated story, but, my brother passed away. And apparently the woman he was married to has decided to sell off everything. Everything that we've ever had in that location, she decided to sell it off. And basically, she sold the whole place, everything, property, the garage, equipment, everything as one package deal, and decided not to offer it or allow our family to try to buy it. So kind of a weird situation. Really doesn't make any sense to me, but probably won't have access to any of that stuff. It'll be all somebody else owns it now, basically. So anyway, okay. Max says later to Ray. Simone says, "Oh, 1:20 a.m. here, sleep time." Yep. Okay. So Larry says, I have the only Corvair on Okinawa, nice 63 Spider. Locals are lost on what they're seeing. I'll bet. Okay. I still have more comments to go. I'm going to just kind of get through these as quickly as I can. Bad Harry says, great show. Good night. Okay. Randy, Corvair's great gas mileage. Gas was high, like 50 cents a gallon. My dad was complaining. I was 8 in 73. Yep. Lynn's taking off. Yeah, I've never seen a Corvair wagon. Yep, it's called the Lakewood. Terry Rushing, a friend of mine, had a Corvair van truck. Yep, they had them. Matt, kidding. I was born in 75. Okay. Randy, my dad would let me pump the gas as a kid, always telling how high gas was, 50 cents a gallon. Yep. Car guy seems to be common on registration transfer the stampings to the new aprons as long as it's documented and disclosed. I don't see an issue. Yeah, I don't really think it's that big a deal, honestly. Michael, I cut my VINs out and reinstalled them on the new aprons. Head to Rhode Island law. Yep. Dave Britton, Honda CT7 was an amazing bike. They sell a big engine kit, and I think they are 88cc. Too much fun. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to call it a night. It's been good. It's been fun. We've had a lot of input from people. We've had questions. We've had comments. New people coming in, which is fantastic. So more bells for all of them. Some people have given super chats. That's fantastic. That helps as well. And that's going to be it for tonight. Now, today's the 24th. Next week is the 31st. That's the end of the month. I'll still be here. But I hope you all have a safe Halloween. I know there's going to be kids out. So be cautious of anybody out there doing their thing. Give them candy, let them have a good time, but keep them safe. So that'll be it for tonight. And until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.